Coming to you live on tape, it's the Psychic Derailleur Podcast. It's a very special day here at the Psychic Derailleur Podcast. We're always coming to you from Tinker HQ. You know, I had Steve from Tinker in to do a podcast, the last podcast actually, and I told him that I thought we should call this building the Java Dome. And you know, I got some pushback.
I wonder why.
I got some pushback.
It's so good, though.
So it's a very special day because we have my first return guest, Aaron Domeier.
Close enough. Domeier. Yeah.
Domeier.
It's all good.
God,
I get it all the time.
Jesus.
It's a lot closer than most.
I've never said your last name.
Yeah.
There's really never been a need.
Mm-hmm.
It's Fritzy, ladies and gentlemen. You may know him as Fritzenheimer Prime. You may know him as the ambassador of Kick Your Asseter. It's Aaron from Surly.
Hello.
The very first guest on the Psychic Derailleur Podcast.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, well, after that first one.
Groundbreaking.
Well, yeah, the one that I almost didn't air because I thought I had no idea what I was doing. And
Well, made two of us.
It's not much better now, as far as, knowing what I'm doing. But
I think we're a little more heavily caffeinated this time.
this is, we're doing this in officially the earliest time I've ever recorded a podcast. And, not that it's all that early, but it's usually an afternoon/evening thing, not a, right after breakfast thing.
If it makes you feel any better, I think this is the earliest I've ever done a podcast as well.
I believe that.
Not too far of a stretch there.
So Aaron was here with Steel Force One, the Surly demo van. We had a bit of a grand opening for the store yesterday. Good times were had by all. But, I need to start today with a more important question. And that is, what makes, marching band drummers so dominant on the drum set?
That's a great question.
Yeah, get that just a little bit.
A little bit closer.
Yeah, you
Sorry.
move the whole thing. You got a little arm there. You can just move it right in front of your face.
When we were doing a sound check, I was explaining to Chris that as a drummer, I don't ever get to talk into microphones. They don't let me.
Yeah.
Probably for good reason. So this is all new to me, so I apologize.
View this as training.
Yes.
So when you go back.
Right. Like, guys,
Yeah,
I learned
look,
something.
right.
I can talk into a microphone now.
I'm on it.
Thank you. The beauty of the marching percussion arts is that when you do that sort of playing, you literally play your rudiments, which are like your building blocks of music for percussionists. Your rights and lefts, ones and twos. You play them all day long.
Yeah.
And you play them to a metronome. And so you learn to play in time, and you learn, that's just the base of it. But then, I could talk for hours about drum corps, so be careful. I get crap for it all the time back home.
Don't get me started on paradiddles.
Yeah.
I mean, a paradiddle diddle.
Oh my God.
Oh, Jesus.
Whew, here we go.
Woo.
Is it getting hot in here? The other flip side of it too is you learn a lot of like musicianship type stuff, like listening and like how to listen across a football field to like say like a marimba that has a similar part that you have, and you got to lock that tempo in 30, 40 yards apart. Like that's incredibly hard to do. So like when you learn to listen to that, like that's that level, I guess, in a way, like when you sit down behind a drum kit, you have those mechanical skills developed with your basing building blocks of how to play a drum set, how to play four parts on a drum set, as well as like the ability to listen, which is so crucial, especially for a drummer, because most people think drummers are just like, you
count to four over and over and over again.
Right. We're good at mouth breathing and
dance
staring.
monkey.
Yeah, exactly. Go.
Too fast.
Exactly.
Too slow.
Yep. And so like being able to listen is something that I found that has been incredibly crucial to just playing drums as an instrument instead of just hitting things.
So who's made the jump? I know the only one that I know is Taylor Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
from the Foo Fighters.
God,
How about the guy that was in Blink 182, that Travis, the guy with all the tattoos?
I think he's had some marching experience.
He kind of seems like somebody that would.
Yeah, totally. And I know like I think like some of the old grades like Steve Gadd, who's played on like everything. I think he had some marching experience. I mean, way back. I mean, the marching thing has really changed quite a bit over time. Like back in the 60s and 70s, like every neighborhood everywhere in America had a marching band, and so like there was a lot of access for young drummers to get into even like a small drum line, small drum corps, or a neighborhood drum corps. You know, I had a friend from Chicago that used to talk about every neighborhood in Chicago had a drum and bugle corps, you know, back in the 60s and 70s. And now it's still there, but it's more kind of moved into the high schools. It's more scholastic. And then, now it's like with Drum Corps International, it's kind of like a big circus now. It's pretty big productions. And so like you have all these different levels of performance and access ports for people of all skill sets. And yeah. Getting back to your question about the grades. I mean, there's a lot of them. I'm totally blanking on names right now, but yeah, we're out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had
most of us are delivering pizzas.
Or driving demo vans.
Yeah, or driving demo vans. Yeah.
I had I started playing the drums when I was like 12, and I never played in band, and but I did it relatively consistently. You know, it was kind of always something that was around, and I felt I always had this feeling that it didn't matter how long I had laid off, it didn't matter how long it had been since I sat behind a drum set. If I was, I'm not talking about being out in a club or something, but if I was with, a group of guys and we were in somebody's basement and somebody said, do you want to sit in? I'd say, yeah, and I'd be able to do it. And I had probably the most humiliating experience of my life. Was it last year? We went up to Chicago for a friend's birthday party. And not to make excuses, but I was coming down with a hellacious case of bronchitis. Not that has anything to do with how your hands work.
It'll get you.
But I sat down in front of this drum set, and I had not been in front of a drum set for, I don't know, 15 years at least. And I mean, there just wasn't anything there. Mm-hmm. And
it'll come back to you though if you get back on the horse. Like
I had, I sat down with like two other guys that I didn't know, and they said, "Well, let's play Knocking on Heaven's Door," and I went, "Oh Jesus, really? You're gonna Bob Dylan?"
Yeah.
And I thought if I had something I could kind of dig in on, I could, I could make up for a little of it,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a 15-year layoff and then have to use finesse on top of that.
That's just it. Yeah, right,
it didn't work at all.
If it was like Louie, you'd be like, "Oh, I got this. Hell yeah!" And lay into it and go.
You play Wipeout. I'll play Wipeout for you all day.
Yeah, those more open drum parts. So like even when you're in it, like those are the hard ones.
Well, and slow and I couldn't for the life of me. You think about that song and it's like. What's the drum part in that song?
Yeah, it's
is there a drum part in that song?
Hi-hat part through half of it or something.
Yeah, I mean it's so yeah. My thought of just having these drum set superpowers got pretty well washed away in an instant.
Can I tell you something, Chris?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I often have that feeling on the drum set.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell am I doing here? I'm just kind of look around and do that. That's why I wear a baseball hat a lot. I can put my head down. People can't see the fear in my eyes. There's also something like really, I mean, you touched on like how you never did the marching thing, but there's also something to be said for learning drums as an instrument outside of academia, where like you have all these rules that you have to follow, which are good to learn, obviously, like timing and wise. But like if you just listen to music, like some of the best drummers I've ever listened to were self-taught, and like they learned by listening to the radio. Like Jeff Picaro from Toto, like he was a self-taught drummer, and that dude, wow, like his groove is like a mile wide when you listen to it. It's kind of cool when you remove that academic aspect and training to a drummer, and then have someone with just someone that has some talent, and you can just go and learn and then develop this like sound that's like organic and it's your own, and it's not tailored after a metronome or a facility or a program that you had to go through. It's there.
I wanted to start you off with something that was in your wheelhouse.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Wake me up a little bit.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Drums, go.
So Surly came out with an e-bike.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And people lost their pea-picking minds.
Yep. It was kind of cool to watch the whole thing drop, and like everyone was like, wait, what? No way.
Yeah.
And, like, when people kind of like started to talk about it, they kind of started to get the thrust behind it and why we're doing it. It's not like a fad for us or something. Like, I mean, people are saying fat bikes are a fad, but they're still here. People were still riding them, still having fun on them. The Big Easy is the bike we're speaking of. It's an e-assist cargo bike, a long tail bike. Essentially, if you think of our big dummy or big fat dummy, throw a motor on it and go. It's not a throttled setup. It's a
pedal
assist. Exactly. Yeah. So it's the idea is to get more people out of cars, more people on bicycles, or at least thinking about alternative means of transportation. Because I think we're learning slowly, very slowly, that using a car for everyday transportation is not the best transportation model for everybody, and there's other options out there.
Yeah, and I think that if you think about, it is to me anyway, it's one of the, for lack of a better word, appropriate applications for this kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? The first would be, the people that want to ride and that is physically just are either not able or are no longer able.
Mm-hmm.
This gives them the ability to get out and enjoy riding a bike. And then I said, the second thing is that if you've got, you want to be a one car family,
Mm-hmm.
or in some places maybe you want to be a no car family.
Right.
I don't know how feasible that is, but certainly as a one car family, and you've got a 15-mile commute,
Plus,
and you got a couple of
groceries
kids and
kids.
groceries
Yeah,
and things like that.
Yeah. Adds up quick.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I've gone through probably the same progression on e-bikes as a lot of people have. Whereas the first, your first kind of impression is, you recoil and that C word comes out. Everybody wants to talk about cheating.
Mm-hmm. What are you really cheating at, though? That's
well,
the question.
That's the thing. It's like,
we're not playing blackjack here.
Well, right. I mean, is it are you going to get some kind of award by getting to work just completely swamped out because you?
I'm still waiting for
cheat?
mine from like 10 years ago, man. I'm like, where's my award for riding my ass off to work?
Yeah. So, and I did as I continued to kind of think about it. It's like, leave it to Surly to go, yeah, you guys argue about this all you want. This is the way you do it.
Yep.
With no fanfare, no lead up. All of a sudden one day you just opened your internet browser and it was like, well,
yeah, we had like one little teaser, and it was just like a little video that one of our dudes made, and like it had like an allusion to like electricity, and some people caught on. They're like, oh wait, no way, electric bike. And then most people are just like oblivious, like, what the hell's going on? And then we dropped and like, oh
yeah.
Yep. I had a similar come to Jesus moment with e-bikes. At first I initially had that pushback, and I loved a mountain bike, and so from my standpoint, I had, at the time when e-bikes hit, I saw a dirt demo at Interbike one year when they first allowed e-bikes out there, and I couldn't count on one hand the amount of times I got ran off the trail climbing up a hill by e-bike. Not a single word, just right by me. I got 3 inches from my handlebars, my knuckles, and I was like, wow, thanks, cool. And it kind of bummed me out a little bit because like I love the mountain bike, and I love the everything about it, like fixing your bike, getting your bike safe, getting your gear selected, the right, the right pressure for the trail, all that stuff. This is part of the whole package.
Well, there is something to the struggle too.
Right, absolutely. And absolutely. And then also putting the time on a bike and working hard at it. It's a mountain biking's not easy, and it's not. But with that progression, you also learn a little bit of trail etiquette and like about, commonalities between all mountain bikers in all regions, stuff like trail etiquette, like saying, and I'm not generalizing, I'm not saying every e-bike mountain biker out there is a jerk, but I think there's something to be said for learning it the hard way and learning the right way in my mind. On the flip side, when we started talking about this bike, it kind of made me change the way I think about e-bikes a little bit too. And like, it's not just a mountain bike, that's not the only application. Because at that time, that was my only experience with it. And then I started to think more and more about what we are doing as a brand, what we represent culturally in cycling. And then I was like, this Big Easy makes a lot of sense now. It makes complete sense to me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I started riding in my 20s, and I never raced, but I rode with people that did, because by and large, if you're in the 80s, if you were out on a road bike, chances are half of the people or more were people that raced on the road. And while I didn't really ever have the desire to race, it taught me how to ride in a group. It taught me how to ride with other people. It taught me, and you did learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Because if you did something wrong, you got told about it. And if you did something wrong again,
you won't be riding with those people next week.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, dude.
So, I've always, since I've, kind of progressed to more upright, bigger tires, kind of a multi-surface type of bike.
Let's call them more fun bikes.
Right, for sure. But when I ride with a lot of people now, it's like I end up kind of biting my lip half the time, and it's just like, there's something to be said for putting your time in those trenches and kind of figuring out the etiquette of
learning
what
the hard
to
way.
do.
And
just sometimes, just learning how to do it. That was one of my big fears too when they started making these, all of a sudden you can go out and drop $6 or $8 grand on a full suspension e-bike. I thought, wow, that's like an accident waiting to happen. You can get some knucklehead out there on the trails that doesn't know how to ride. And then I started thinking about it. It was like, it's kind of ridiculous, because is a guy that doesn't know how to ride really going to have the means to drop $6,000 or $8,000 and going to be willing to drop that kind of money on a full suspension e-bike?
Right.
Chances are the people that are going to do that, there may be one or two, but for the most part, it's going to be people that have experience riding, and so,
if you go to like YouTube and like Google like whiskey throttle motocross, and like there's just hundreds of hilarious videos of people like doing the same thing, like first time riders on a dirt bike, and they just pin it down and go, and they can't figure out how to let go of the throttle, so they ride up a wall or up a tree or something like that. And cue Benny Hill music, I'm waiting for that with e-bikes now. I haven't been on YouTube in a bit, but I'm gonna maybe tonight over a beer I'll go check that out.
Well, it's it's one of those things that I see the allure.
Absolutely.
You could get on one of those things and ride, and the thing I would tell people all the time is that they're more fun than I would care to admit they are.
Well, I was telling this to people in the parking lot yesterday. We did a little demo yesterday for the grand opening, and we were just on the subject of e-bikes in general, and I made the allusion to like jet skis. Have you ever seen someone ride it? Like I'm from Minnesota, so we have lakes all over.
Sure. And
so like jet skis are kind of hotly contested, like thing with fishermen. I come from a fishing family, so like we love to fish. It's Minnesota and it's frozen lakes, and jet skis are kind of hated in my circle of friends because they're super loud and annoying. They're just all day long, and always making waves. And but the thing is, if you've ever seen someone on a jet ski, I guarantee you've never seen somebody on a jet ski with a frown. Like they're always having a blast and just like having way more fun than you are.
It's an old Daniel Tosh bit.
Yeah, right.
You see anybody frown on a jet ski?
Yeah,
you
that's
can't.
where I got that from. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I totally forgot. That's not my material. It's still good though. It makes a lot of sense. So it's a great way to explain it, And we're talking about e-mountain bikes, but like the cargo thing is, I think it's
all kinds of
sense.
sense.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah.
Right. All kinds of sense. And if as the population seemingly continues to, kind of revert back into the urban center, and these towns keep building greenways, and you have access to, all the different places that you might need to go via the bike. I mean, it makes all kinds of sense.
It does, and especially like I don't have any like data to back this up, but like in my travels, I just pay attention to what's going on. As part of my job is just bringing market research back to Surly and say, hey, this is what people are talking about, but also seeing economically, like almost every city I've been in the East Coast, there's this awesome movement of like local businesses blooming all over the place that are supporting those people moving into the city. People are kind of getting fed up with big box stores and like want to have like, oh, I got my coffee roaster, speak of the devil, I have my florist, I have my baker, and they're all like local small mom and pop shops. I think that's really cool, and I think this bike kind of helps facilitate that. Like you got your stops you got to make on a Saturday morning, go to the farmer's market, you bring the kids with, stop and get some bread, maybe get some beer on the way home. You can do all that with that bike, and I'm excited to see what people do with it.
Yeah, I'm excited to ride it. I didn't even get a chance to ride it yesterday.
Yeah. We might have to flip a coin for who gets to ride it on the ride tonight. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe I'll opt to you. I got the party wagon, so I think my bridge club. So I call the party wagon.
Wow.
Yeah.
That'd be rad.
Yeah.
All right.
We can figure that out later.
Membership has its privileges.
It does.
Okay.
You know a guy.
So what else is going on at Surly? Anything? I mean, that was a big thing.
We, along with the Big Easy, you're gonna see more cargo stuff come out. Because we just got all of our cargo bikes now come with I forget exactly what we call them. They're just collars for live cargo. So in order to get our bikes finally officially rated for live cargo, we had to make these.
By live cargo, you mean children's?
Anything, yeah. Chickens, ducks, geese, children, yes.
Baby children's.
Your drunk buddy after a little night at the bar. So you see more accessories like that. We got our kid corral that we just came out with this winter. Some deck pads, some handlebars for the kids. I can't really say anything beyond that, but think of the scope of cargo. That's kind of where we're putting a lot of our brain power at right now, and accessories.
But accessories, not additional bikes.
Exactly, yeah.
You got enough in the way of bikes.
Yeah, we got a few bikes. TV tray was another new thing we came out with. That's a decking option for any of our racks. It's a very simple thing, and when I first saw our product team working on it and talking about it, I was kind of like scratching my head with it a little bit, as with some of our products. But once you start putting it into use and get your hands on it, then it makes a lot of sense. And essentially, the TV tray is just a machined aluminum plate that you can mount to like an 8-pack rack, a 24-pack rack, our front rack, our rear rack. It has this really cool little C-clip integration thing where it's installed permanently on the thing. Well, not permanently, you can always take it off, but what it does is it utilizes that flat space. It kind of has a similar footprint to like a 24-pack rack, and allows you to there's no longer rails below your gear. There's just this like metal plate thing you can run straps through, and I like it because it's super modular. I can throw a duffel bag on it and strap it down with some clothes for work. I can whatever. It's just a cargo platform.
Yeah,
it's simple and it's cool, and it's just a little thing that we do.
And in stock now at the second trailer.
Absolutely, yeah, that's right. This is the black one. That's right. Yeah. Let's see what else. We got the new Karate Monkey build. This is something I'm really excited about because I love our trail stuff. I love our trail bikes. It's direct feedback from shops and consumers that they wanted our bike spec'd with some more trail-oriented parts on it. So dropper post suspension fork. And something that we do as a brand that I think is really cool is we do 2 years between model years. And so like a lot of brands will do every year they'll release all their new bikes on a date. We stagger ours. And there's a couple reasons behind that. It helps with shops. Helps also create some like momentum throughout the year too. So like if we have constant updates, like, oh, we got this new bike in fall, we got this new bike in winter, it creates some buzz around the brand a little bit. The Karate Monkey Sus was a direct feedback, like I said, from shops and consumers wanting a trail specific build. But the issue with doing like suspension forks on bikes is that if we do 2 years we do a full run of bikes with suspension forks on, and say a shop buys one, in December, and it sits on the floor through January, some people perceive that as being obsolete inventory because maybe the decals on the fork aren't the newest thing.
Right.
And honestly, in the factories, sometimes all they do is just change the sticker or the color, and so then that puts the shops in a bit of a bind because then they have this perceived inventory that's worth less than what they paid for. And then anyways, so we try to think about ways to fix that. And this Karate Monkey Sus, we're doing a short run of them. I can't say how short, but like a seasonal, basically through the summer we'll have them. And it's a cool build. It's got a sus fork on it. It's got the RockShox sector for it. Gonna drop her post. It's got a little 12-speed NX Eagle on it too. So it's got this pretty cool setup on it. It's a rad bike. And it's like this, like, what do we call it? Lemon lime soda. It looks like.
Right, that kind of day glow
right,
type thing.
Right.
Yeah. That has been it's been a sticking point in the bike business for, well over a decade. That, and it's just now in the last, I would say, couple of years started to be addressed where, you have carryover inventory. Mm-hmm. So, somebody like, not to name names, but it's the one that I have the most experience with, Trek, somebody like Trek comes out and, they drop 2019 product in June of 2018.
Yeah.
So now everything that you've got on the floor is, in the consumer's mind, last year's stuff. And even though nothing has changed other than maybe the color.
Yeah, and a lot of those bikes won't get into your shop until like fall, too. So it's like, yeah.
So yeah, the thing of having that carryover inventory and having like one color that goes, through more than one season, so you don't have as much of that. And Surly's been doing that for a long time, and it's
since the get-go, if I remember it. Yeah,
it's good. And they, the fact that they just don't, the bikes just don't change that much unless they have to. Yeah, it's usually it's component spec driven.
Component spec and color. Yeah, we'll usually do about a year or two between colors, depending on. We had the bruised, pickled beet in the Krampus, and that was, that's another thing that an example of one thing I love about the brand is that we're really honest, and like there was some sort of mix up with the paint factory where we decided to go with red, that Andy's apple red, the hot red, the kind of Ferrari red,
right.
And then the pickled beet was a secondary color we were considering, but there's a miscommunication with the print shop somehow, and they all of a sudden started arriving in stores, and people at shops were sending us emails like, "Yo, did you guys just do a new color? Is this a warranty or what's up with this purple sparkle? It looks really cool." And we're like, "Whoa, what's up with this sparkle?" And we started looking and we're like, "Oh no, like we got a whole shipping container full of bikes, and it was an honest mistake." And so we owned it. We're like, we did a blog or a press release about, hey, we got some new colors in stock. It wasn't expected, but they're really cool, so we're gonna keep them. And it'll be stupid to send them back and have them stripped. You know what I mean? Like with like the environmental impact and the cost of that too. It'd just be like, who cares? It's a rad color.
Right.
People love this. They sold like hotcakes.
Well, and quite honestly, in a lot of cases, especially with the touring type bikes and the one that I've had the most experience with is the Longhaul Trucker. It's a color and then black. Mm-hmm. So the secondary color is always black.
Yep.
And the color, whatever the color is, it always seems to be a love it or hate it.
Yeah, totally.
And I'll look at customers and I'll say, I'm convinced that they do this on purpose. they go out of their way to pick colors that they know half the people are not
Yeah.
going to like.
Yeah. And the other
And
half
I
are
think-
gonna like be buried with that bike frame because they love it so much.
Right.
Yeah.
And but I think the other part of it is just the pragmatism of the whole thing is that it's just, dude, it's a color.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't affect the ride of the bike
Right.
one iota.
Yeah.
So just live with it.
And I've had bikes that like I bought and I wasn't super hot in the color. It was just like the only size I could get. It was a
Right.
certain color, and I was like, cool, whatever, I'll ride it. And I learned to like after a while. Like sometimes colors like you hate in a store, and then when you go ride them and get some dirt on it, it looks really good. Like white's kind of that color. I'm not a big white fan for white bikes because these are always dirty. But then like you go out and get it muddy, like actually that white looks kind of rad when it's like you splash through some puddles and stuff. But an example,
Right.
I still don't like white bikes. But.
Right. No, it's the bane of every, when they went through the phase of putting white saddles and white handlebar tape on every bike.
Yeah, one ride and they're just
The
it looks
bane of
great.
every bike mechanic in the world ever.
Yeah. And back home we have Cuyuna Trails, which has like all this iron in the dust, and it's like it's red sand when you ride. It's like unlike anywhere else in the Midwest. It's super weird. But anyways, if you ever have a white bike and ride up there, it's like you can kiss that goodbye because that stuff does not come off a frame. There's something about the magic in that dust that like sticks to a bike frame, and you can scrub with the brush all you want, and it's never coming off.
It's the iron. You when you mentioned that, my grandfather had a cabin up around Ely.
Oh yeah.
And he took me up there. I don't know if I was older than 5, maybe 6. I don't know. I was young. And we went out on a boat. And I have this memory, even though it was 100 years ago, of sitting in that boat, looking back over the stern into the water. And it looked like root beer. Mm-hmm. I said, it looks like root beer. Mm-hmm. And it was because of all the iron.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you ever get up to Lake Superior, it's a pretty cool lake. I mean, it's huge. It's one of the biggest lakes in the world, but like, it's red and it looks just evil. Like, there's a weird vibe up there. Like, it's really melancholy and kind of just subdued and like, I don't know. It's cool.
A couple of friends of mine did on multiple occasions, but they did it once together. And I crewed for them the Minnesota Border to Border Triathlon.
Oh yeah, that's a haul.
So starts in Laverne, which is like a biscuit away from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It's very close to Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
That's Mel Stomping Ground. I know where Laverne is.
So Laverne to Cook. No, I'm sorry, Laverne to St. Cloud.
Yep.
By the time you get to St. Cloud, you're in Canada.
Yep. You're still like 6 hours from it.
But as far as that's when everything starts to change.
Yep, pine trees and long A's. Everyone's like,
hater.
Yeah. Go stand in a snowbank.
So you were having sex with the little guy. So then St. Cloud to Eveleth.
Oh yeah.
Eveleth to Cook to Crane Lake.
Wow.
So I got in the car, and my mom was having a family reunion in Oswego, Illinois, over by there. And so I got in the car at like an 04:30 or something like that, and took off and went over to Duluth, and then straight down through Wisconsin into Illinois.
Yeah.
And went by Superior, and it's like.
It grabs you. That's a big lake.
That's like, you can go by Lake Michigan and go, oh man, that looks really nice. I'd like to go boating or swimming or, something like that. You go by Lake Superior and it's like,
it's like the big angry brother to all the other Great Lakes.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's the deepest.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. There's people that surf that in the wintertime because I don't know if historically it's ever frozen all the way through.
I can't.
I don't think it would take a couple winters long to do that. It's such a big lake. But
the next ice age, it'll happen.
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah. You mentioned Eveleth. Do you know who was born in Eveleth, Minnesota?
I do not.
You mentioned him earlier in the show. Bob Dylan was actually born in Eveleth.
Was he born in Eveleth?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I had a friend in college that was from Eveleth, and he always brought that up over beers. Like, yeah, we know Alex.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm trying to think of because we wouldn't have been in Eveleth. Well, it was only one night.
That's up in the range, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
range.
by the time, that was like day 3 or something like that.
Yeah,
and
they all
it's,
kind of blur together, yeah.
I'm in my little 88 Nissan Sentra, with no air conditioning, with following these guys that are.
And summertime in Minnesota gets, it gets hot everywhere in the Midwest, but all those lakes and the humidity is brutal.
Oh my God.
Good Lord.
The mosquitoes that year, they were like the size of the end of your pinky. I'd be sitting in the car and they were so big, and you could see they were full of blood.
They'll eat house cats.
We got up to Crane Lake and they had the kind of the closing ceremonies, finishing thing at the volunteer fire department up there. Big surprise. And they at that time they said, yeah, normally this time of year they would have had 3 hatchings, and that year they had already had 11.
Ooh. That's a long summer.
It was terrible.
Yeah, northern Minnesota gets pretty bad up in the summertime. But like the beauty is like once you get the first like chill night, the first like almost freezing temperature, 30s, 40s, it'll kill off most of the mosquitoes, or they'll go do their thing for the winter and go. I don't even know if they hibernate, whatever. They're evil creatures. It's black magic, but after that, it's beautiful because the temperature breaks. Like I always tell people, if you want to visit like Cuyuna mountain bike trail system, I've talked to some people at some demos and stuff. Like, hey, what's that Cuyuna place up in Minnesota? I was telling them about it. And they're like, that sounds great. We're thinking about going there in July. I'm like, no, don't. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, don't. It's too hot. Like, go there. It's like, they compare our humidity to Vietnam. Like, that's not a good thing. Like, that's hot, hot and humid. Anyways, but in the fall, it's perfect. Like the temperature breaks and the leaves start to turn. It's really cool. It's the best riding season, I think, in Minnesota. Spring's always too wet and sloggy, but fall is great, especially right before it freezes. It's awesome.
So is the Bridge Club the nicest bike that Surly's released in the last number of years?
That's a good question. I kind of think so. Like in its own surly way, it's really kind of nuzzled away into my heart. Like at first I was kind of like, again, I was skeptical of it. As with anything, we're all very critical of the stuff that we do, And so I started thinking about the bike more and more. I was like, I'm gonna throw a leg over it and ride one. So I got one late last summer. Decided to kind of commit to it. So I made it my everyday rider. Ride it to work, ride it to, go get groceries, little bike packing trips here and there. I did some touring on it too. And it's really kind of become like my first Surly was a cross check, and
So was mine.
When I was we had something in common. When I was looking for a new bike when I moved to Minneapolis years ago, I had this like list of stuff I wanted to do. I wanted like drivetrain compatibility, big tires, fenders, whatever. And the bikes that I was looking at, that was the only bike that crossed all those little check marks. And so I got on it, started riding it, and I'm a bit of a tinkerer, so I love being able to change up my bike. And so that's why the cross check really resonated with me. Well, also being a mountain biker, I'm kind of partial to disc brakes. Like you can set up a set of caliper brakes to work. I had some Tectros on there forever that I threw some cool stop salmon pads on, rode them year round, and they stopped me just fine. But there's just something about disc brakes. I can set those things up pretty quick. I guess it comes from my demo days at QBP. Like I fixed a lot of mountain bikes in that time of my life. So when this came out, I was like, oh, disc brakes, and it's really a versatile bike. It's got clearance for big tires, different wheel sizes, fenders, racks. And the more I started to like tinker with this bike, I'm like, this bike is really cool. Like it's become this jack of all trades. Like
I think it may be the nicest riding bike that they've done in
I wouldn't
my
disagree.
memory.
I wouldn't disagree with you. Yeah, it's
Have you ridden any single track with it?
A little bit, like here and there. I'm working on some routing stuff. I got asked by one of our employees at QBP to help out with some of the new employees about like mapping some like Strava rides for the new people so they can find safe routes from Minneapolis or different parts of the city to headquarters. And because there's like 2 suburbs you got to ride through, and there's like 2 giant highways you have to cross over. So like crossing over at the main Franz Ave and Penn Ave is not the most safest route because there's like 3 lanes in each direction and people drive really fast and it's dangerous. But if you can find these side streets that have smaller bridges, anyways. So what I've been working on is finding 2 routes to Q And my first one I did with my midnight special, and I called it Dirt to Work. I did this blog post about the customization of the midnight special. Well, the goal was to find as much single track between my house and QBP as possible. And I guess I don't have the exact numbers, but it's probably like out of 12.5 miles, I bet you I have about 4 miles of single track. And it's just like along this creek and just like little paths I found. So I've been connecting that with my bridge club as well. And I'm doing like an alleyway route with my bridge club. And I'm trying to track it, and then I submit it to our people at Q. Then they can show it to the new employees, saying, "Here's a really safe route. Here's a bunch of alleyways and off-street trails that you can ride to get to work." And so I've been kind of experimenting with that with the Bridge Club as well. I'm kind of tucking in little neighborhoods, finding little walking paths and stuff. And
the only thing that I could see that might be an issue is the height of the bottom bracket. You know, it's going to be, it's not going to be the best, or I should say, you know, something that's more actually designed for single track obviously is going to be
like, it's not a karate monkey, but
right.
But then again, that karate monkey is also meant to go further off road than the Bridge Club is.
Right.
You know, it's got drops and rocks and that kind of stuff. But you know, for farting around in the woods and like light duty single track, that bike is perfect.
Pulling kids and going to the store and, you know, going to work and
exactly. Yeah. I think I've run 3 different wheel sizes on it now, and it's super fun to kind of see how the different wheel sizes, diameters, and widths work in different conditions, and how the bike handles differently with those wheels, you know. And I'm actually working on a similar blog to the Midnight Special one I was talking about for the Bridge Club. It's a new series we're doing called Make It Your Own, and it's kind of showcasing the customability or customization of our bikes. We like to not tell people how to experience the ride. We feel it's more up to the rider to define that, and that's half the excitement of like buying a Surly, is like growing with it. And like, you know, you get this stock bike that's like got bulletproof parts on it, it's a bulletproof frame, plus you can add stuff to it. You know, you can put fenders or racks or what have you for your different applications, and grow with it as your commuting needs change. So can your bike. Well,
and that's always been one of the things that I've loved about these bikes, and one of the things that I've tried to stress to people is that, you know, if you buy a bike like a Crosscheck or a Longhaul Trucker, you know, your cost of entry comparatively is low, right? I mean, so it's not, you know, it's not that it's not a lot of money. You know, $1,100 or $1,300 is a lot of money.
Absolutely, yeah.
But when you compare it to what else is out there for that amount of money, your cost of entry is very low.
Yep.
You have a very solid, nearly bulletproof spec that, if you so choose, I mean, you can just ride it like it is until it wears out. Or, like you said, as you start to get a feel for it and figure out really what you want to use the bike for, you can change some things around. And even after doing that, you're still, your cost of entry is still low comparatively.
Totally. Yep.
It's always been a remarkable thing to me.
That's as a brand, that's something we've been trying to figure out the best way to address, because it's like, to us it makes a lot of sense. Like, you buy this bike that grows with you. I mean, how are we to know what our needs are going to be as a cyclist right away until we try it? You know, like, you know, you think you have this idea like, oh, when I first started riding the Crosscheck, I was like, I want 23, I want road tires. I want 23C tires on my bike. And I did. And I got so many flats, I just about threw my bike in a swamp. Like, literally, one time I had to talk myself down from throwing my bike into a swamp. I was so frustrated with getting flats. And I was like, I should have listened to my mechanic and gotten bigger tires. Because the whole time he was just like, dude, get bigger tires. You bought the frame for that. Like, just go as big as you can. I'm like, no, but they're slow. And then I was like,
I've had that conversation with so...
You know what else is slow? Changing a flat every other day.
Right.
You know?
The people that are going to buy a Longhaul Trucker, a bike that'll, you know, take a 42 millimeter wide tire with a 700C wheel, or a 2.1 tire with a 26-inch wheel, and then ask me how narrow they can go. It's like...
You're missing the point.
Yeah, dude. Right.
Yeah. The funny, kind of coming back to my previous statement, the one about how, you know, it's almost impossible to know what your riding needs are going to be when you buy a bike right away. The Longhaul Trucker might be one of the exceptions to that statement. it's crazy how many long haul truckers you see out there bone stock. Like I've seen like people, you know, have their bikes. I mean, you can spot as someone who's touring a mile away. Like their bike's leaned up against a 7-Eleven or something like that. And
Right.
they're buying some, you know, gummy bears and peanut butter, you know, and
Little Debbie's, man.
yeah, exactly. Some high calorie awesomeness, you know. And you know, a lot of times it's a long haul trucker. It's those are a very popular touring bike, and it's awesome to see how many of those people just buy it and ride it. Like they're just like, I don't want to change a single thing on this thing. I've done my research. I've read all the reviews. Like the wheels are good, blah blah blah. The frame is amazing, blah blah blah. And they just grab it and go. They might change a bar tape or something or a saddle, but yeah, it's kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, it's. I remember seeing an article, and I don't remember where it was, but there were these guys that they literally rode around the world, and they got to San Francisco, and one of the guys had a long haul trucker. He had Marathon Plus tours, right? So the super heavy
Big old
ones
sneakers, yeah.
that were worn down to you could see the blue in the middle of the tire. The chainring wasn't shark finned. I mean, it was
round, yeah.
it was just. I mean, they were like needle points. I mean, he had just ridden that
I love
thing.
that about touring people. They will get every last bit of value out of every part
Well,
of the bike. Because you have to. You're riding around the world. You know, it's like
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, but the bike was still going. I mean, you know, it was kind of incredible.
That's probably the most humbling thing about being a part of the team for Surly is like hearing these stories of people doing fantastic stuff. Like, you know, like I've gotten emails from people that have ridden across Kazakhstan and stuff, and they're just saying, you know, let's drop us an email to say, here's a picture of me in these mountain ranges, like not looking for free stuff, just want to say thank you for making cool stuff, you know? And
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's something, that's a tool that someone used to go have a life experience they're going to talk about for the rest of their life. You know, it's pretty humbling.
People that buy a Surly ride the damn bike.
They ride the damn bike.
They ride the bike. What's going on here? Oh, nothing.
Your robot's
Yeah, the
weird.
camera's acting up. That's no problem.
Getting attitude.
Yeah, that happens.
Because I'm here, I think.
It senses your power.
Fight back.
What was I going to say? So we're going to ride some more bikes today. Little bit later.
The two-day grand opening
Man,
extravaganza.
I'm telling you what. I
Yeah.
feel I feel special.
Good. You are special.
And we're going to ride the Big Easy. And
I tried to get him to name it the Big Easy E, but they didn't bite on it. That's why they don't let me name things.
No,
Aaron, get in the van
come
and go
on.
drive.
I mean, I know Minnesota is the home of Prince, but
yeah.
let's not get carried away. Well, this has been great. What else is going on? You got anything else?
We got some travel. I got some travel coming up here. We'll be at Dirt Fest, both Dirt Fests this year. Pennsylvania next month, and then the West Virginia one's in July, mid-July, I believe. That's a great event for us. It's really fun to partner with Dirt Rag. We're throwing a little bit more extra oomph behind the presence this year. Usually we show up with the TP. It's the famous Surly HQ. We have a 16-person elk hunting TP we've had that we use for events. It's pretty awesome to be able to get the whole team in there and like stoke the fire and have a warm, dry place at Dirt Fest, because in the past couple of years it's rained a bunch.
Yeah.
And Dirt Rags
Like yesterday.
like yesterday. Yeah, literally like yesterday. I think last year we were one of like 2 brands sending bikes out, and I went back and forth on it because it was pouring rain, and I talked to the event people. I'm like, you know, are the trails still open? You know, like what's up? They're like, you know, honestly, all these people came to ride. We're not going to close the trails. We'll fix them later. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, you know, being that we tout ourselves as being the apocalypse bike brand, I thought there was no way that we could show up at Dirt Fest and then not send bikes out during rain, and so we did, and we were the most popular brand there. That's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, I bet.
You know, so we're doing Dirt Fest West Virginia. We're doing 2 rides there too. We're sponsoring like a WTF Women Trans Femme Ally ride in the morning on Saturday, and then we're doing our annual rolling fat ride. You meet at the tent at 4:19 and roll out sometime after. So it's kind of a come one and come all kind of fun mountain bike ride, not a race, just having fun and getting goofy on bikes and making poor decisions and laughing about it afterwards over beers. So that'll be fun. We're also gonna be at NEMBA Fest in June up in Vermont, and then some just regional stuff in between too. So check out surlybikes.com events on the new website.
And at Surly Bikes on Instagram, is it?
I should know this. I believe it is. Yeah, we just changed. It used to be Intergalactic Surly Bikes,
but that was just too damn long.
I know. I can't even spell intergalactic. I have to Google that.
Let's see. We can find it.
Well, we're starting a new. We're finally getting hip to all the kids and their phones and stuff, and we're starting a new hashtag called "Make It Your Own." And so it's kind of like helping people that like have a custom Surly bike they want to. I don't know, show off. You can hashtag make it your own, and it'll get added to the list. Very similar to the photo dump that we used to have. The photo dump has been kind of repositioned. Instead of having like one main page for our photo dump, it's on each individual product page. So as you navigate our website and you say you want to see some really cool custom ECRs, you can just go to the ECR page, and then down below it'll have all the bikes that are ECRs tagged ECR and make it your own. So it's kind of cool.
So it is Surly Bikes on Instagram and on Facebook. If anybody still uses that, it is the official Intergalactic Surly Regional HQ.
Yeah.
The official Intergalactic Surly Regional HQ. I am very disappointed that they don't have intergalactic dealers anymore. I was one of the highlights of my life, and the thing that I was most proud of is the fact that I was an intergalactic Surly dealer, and the fact that that's been taken away from me, I don't know that I'll ever get over.
We're working on that right now. It's the new website is just like the hierarchy and functionality of the dealer locator. It's a new website, and like with any new website, there's a couple. I'm not a computer person. In fact, I can barely operate my smartphone. But we have a team of people that are helping us to work on that sort of thing and like make it more concise.
So what you're saying is all hope is not lost.
Correct.
Great. Okay. Well, Aaron, thanks a lot, pal.
Absolutely. Thanks for
coming back.
I'm honored.
Thanks for being the first repeat guest.
Woohoo!
And we'll do it again.
Awesome.
Thanks, buddy.
Happy grand opening, actually.
Hey, thank you very much.
Yep.
See you next time, everybody. Bye.